Austin Gayle here with Pro Football Focus, bringing you Steve Palazzolo to go over our immediate reactions of the Cleveland Browns trade for Odell Beckham Jr. We're just as excited as you are, and I know Steve is too.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy because the Cleveland Browns all of a sudden look like the favorite, not only in the AFC North, maybe not the favorite in the AFC, but they're up there. They're in the playoff push in the AFC because of all of the moves that they've been making over the last couple of years, but now adding one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr., to Baker Mayfield, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. So now you've got this trickle-down effect with that offense. You've got an Odell Beckham that can win anywhere around the field. You've got Jarvis Landry, who is good in the slot. You have a Rashard Higgins, who's a good possession receiver. David Njoku at tight end. This is how you win in today's NFL. Load up with playmakers with a good quarterback.
Talk to me about the compensation. Is this the steal everyone wants to call it is?
I don't know if it's a pure steal. I mean, you're giving up a first-round pick, a third-round pick, plus a first-round pick from 2 years ago in Jabril Peppers, who's a good safety. He was a top 20 safety in the NFL last year. So, they're giving up a lot, and you still have to pay Odell Beckham, the hefty price tag that he signed for last year. But it's worth it. I think it's going to be worth its value. When you look at Baker Mayfield from week 9 and on, he was the 4th most accurate quarterback in the NFL using our ball location data. Eli Manning was one of the worst, and we saw week in, week out, that Giants offense was very dependent on Odell Beckham and his production either down the field or after the catch. And Eli Manning, for the last few years, has had a tough time getting him the ball. So I see this being a valuable pick or valuable trade because of Baker Mayfield being paired with Odell Beckham.
OBJ, Baker Mayfield. Is that the best duo, wide receiver quarterback duo in the NFL right now?
It's up there. I mean, we can't, we've got Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. You've got Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen, Brady and Edelman. There's so many different guys, Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, but they have a chance to be up there. And I do think when you look at Baker Mayfield versus, say, a Patrick Mahomes, who was, an MVP candidate last year, was absolutely fantastic. We've had debates in the office. As good as Mahomes is, could Baker Mayfield be up in that Mahomes echelon? I think when you surround him with those kinds of playmakers, yes, he can be, at least from a statistical output standpoint, especially next year. So I think this does vault Baker Mayfield up into that MVP type conversation because of what he's going to be able to do on the field. And then the Giants, we have to look at, okay, what are they going to do with these picks? Again, a first and a third, that's not bad, but we have to see if they're going to spin that for a quarterback. Do they try to go get a Josh Rosen? I don't know if they're sold on a Dwayne Haskins in this draft, but that's going to be big to see what the Giants actually do with these picks.
Is there a scenario where they use those 2 first-round picks to jump up and try and get a QB?
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting there at 6, and, they would have to jump, if the Raiders are all in on a quarterback potentially, whether they want to move on from Derek Carr. I think that's their competition there, but they're in a good position to get at least Kyler Murray or a Dwayne Haskins, depending on how things fall. But it does give them a little bit more ammo if they wanted to get up to number 1 for whatever reason, if they want to go get their quarterback. But I think that's going to be the key for the Giants. It can't be building around Eli Manning over these next few years. They have to go get a quarterback, whether it's in this year's draft or maybe finding a way to go get Josh Rosen from the Arizona Cardinals.
That's great. Talk to me more about Jabril Peppers. I know you said he's a top 20 safety in the NFL, but where does he fit in their scheme? Can he replace what Landon Collins did? What does he do for this Giants defense?
He's a similar player as Landon Collins. He's going to be more of a box player, working downhill. We saw Jabril Peppers playing 30 yards off the line of scrimmage his rookie season as a free safety. That's not his role. He's more of a linebacker than a safety. So, they'll be able to replace Landon Collins, I think, to a point. So if we could take a step back and say, okay, that's not a bad way to replace Landon Collins, who just went and signed for big money with the Washington Redskins.
Closing thoughts. Who won this trade?
Well, I think you have to lean toward the Browns, but we don't want to get too emotional with it. The Giants, they do give up their best player, but if they're declaring that they're in a rebuild mode, it's not the worst thing in the world to do it with draft picks. But I do think the Browns just make out so much because of what this does. When you get the number 1 wide receiver and then the rest of the receiving core can just slot into what they do best, and you pair it with a potentially elite quarterback in Baker Mayfield, it makes the Browns the favorites in the AFC North.
Well, there you have it. This has been Steve Palazzolo and Austin Gayle with Pro Football Focus.